I mean, it is a fact that at that time, phone calls were made, phone calls were made by the US, phone calls were made by other countries as well. I mean, this is not a secret. I mean, at least in my case, almost every phone call I had, definitely every American phone call I had, is there on my X account. So when something like this happens, countries do call up. I mean, after all, don't I call up? I mean, when Israel-Iran was happening, I called up. Or when Russia-Ukraine was happening, I called up. So it's in today's international relations, because it is an interdependent world and countries feel, okay, something is happening somewhere, I should know, and particularly, I would say, those who have a stronger history of international relations will do that. But, that is one thing. It is something quite different to assert mediation, or to assert that an outcome which was negotiated between India and Pakistan was not negotiated between India and Pakistan, it was.
And that was a consequence of military actions, the way it played out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, I've done this before, so you don't want me. I tell people that if on the 9th night we had, President Vance, Vice President Vance conveying that, the Pakistanis were going to do a big attack, and then 10th morning, the Pakistanis now ask for talking to DGMO. What happened in the intervening period? What happened in the intervening period was very bad things to their airfields. I mean, to me, the causality is very clear. The causality is a military happening. Ultimately, how does the course of conflict progress? Yes, it can progress through reason, but mostly it progresses through events on the ground. So something happened militarily on the 10th morning. Now, please look at what happened on 10th morning, and the pictures of the Pakistani airfields tell you what happened on 10th morning.
But still, the Pakistanis seem to have found new currency in Washington, and it's probably coming from the crypto route. So is that now a new channel of diplomacy which is working in Washington, and that you have to contend with it? Where are we on these? Because see, a lot of countries are facing these difficulties. A lot of allies of US are facing.
For that, you have to get another minister to sit here and answer that. No, it's not me. There are some issues which are of very recent origin. For example, the magnets for the auto industry. That is an outcome of a Chinese export control policy, which is a few months old. So it's not like there is one problem or one cluster of problems with a certain timeline. It is something, different problems have different histories, you could say, and were at different levels of processing. Now, look at the solution side. Again, you brought up Sindoor. You referred to the fact that now, given what is happening in the current state in the world, I would actually point out to the fact that much of what is happening now, or what was agreed to when Minister Wang Yi was here, was actually decided last October, when President Xi and Prime Minister met in Kazan. Some of it was followed up in November last year, when Wang Yi and I met in Brazil, I think. So, look, it's not what I want you to understand is, it's not black and white. It's not something has happened with America, so therefore immediately something has happened with China. I mean, if you are looking at the kind of things we announced now, air flights was not decided now. I mean, we are just operationalizing something we wanted to work on.
So there are parallel timelines which you can say.
There are different timelines of different lengths on different problems.
And you're okay with segmenting it like that?
I think it would be a mistaken analysis to try and crunch everything and make it into a integrated response to a very specific situation. That's what. So there may be, today, yes, of course, there is a global landscape. I'm not impervious to it. But I'm telling you that many of the things, for example, boundary, this is the 24th or 25th round of talks between the SRs. Now, what they decided on boundary has been actually a subject of conversation for multiple rounds, some of them for 15 years. So they are not necessarily new concepts which were decided now because something is happening on some other account. So I want you to understand there is an evolution, there's a flow of that relationship. There are other relationships, but don't make this connect so tight and make it a causality. Not as the first foreign minister,
yes.
foreign minister to visit Russia and I guess so.
And met Putin.
Yeah, I guess so.
What is the sense you got of that conversation? Everybody's linking us to that conversation as well.
Well, there were two parts to it. I mean, one part of it was our own relations, and we have a practice of annual summits with the Russians. We are planning one at the end of the year. So a lot of it was devoted to what would happen there. It's an annual exercise. That's how the relationship grows. And I'm like the account keeper for the non-military side of it. So the way it is divided is defense minister manages the military side. I do the rest. So a lot of it was devoted to what would happen, what's happening in our relationship, where are we going, what will we do, things like that. And there were some good developments. I think our trade has grown a bit. We would like to grow it further. There's been some mobility of people. We would like to see that increase. We want more market access in Russia, things like that. The other part of it, of course, was the global picture, and particularly since President Putin had come out of Alaska, so he spoke to me about his views on, what was happening. And so,
could you give us a window or an understanding of how that conversation has gone and how it's looking in the ground since you're coming from there?
Well, obviously I'm constrained in many respects in doing that, but overall, look, where we stand, we've been very clear from the very start that we would like to see an early end to the conflict. We've also taken the view that in any conflict, it's for the parties concerned to sort it out. Okay? Now, in this particular case, because the parties concerned are also comfortable and the Americans took the initiative, we've been supportive of the efforts, because we are supportive of any efforts which would bring about that change. Now, it is a very complex, complex situation there, because there are military complexities, there are political complexities, there's a whole history there. It involves, NATO, European Union. So there are a lot of moving parts there. So it's not as simple as sometimes it appears, in the media. But, overall, as I said, our good wishes are there for an early end to the conflict on terms which obviously the two sides have to say. The same arguments which have been used to target India have not been applied to the largest oil importer, which is China, has not been applied to the largest LNG importer, which is the European Union. When people say we are funding the war or putting money in the coffers of Putin, India-European Union trade is bigger than India-Russia trade. So is American money not, European money not putting money into Putin's coffers? So, and if you look even at trade, look at countries
you say they are getting more from Europe than from us? Is that the point?
The overall Russia-EU trade is bigger than Russia-India trade. So my point is, look, if the argument is energy, there are bigger buyers. If the argument is who's trading more, there are bigger traders. If the argument is, by the way, percentage of increase, okay? Now, yes, some countries haven't increased the percentage because they've gone and bought oil from Iran, okay? To which also the Americans have objections. So my point, look, there is a certain inconsistency here. And if you look even at exports, I mean, India's exports to Russia have grown, but not that much. I can think of some other countries whose exports have grown dramatically after 2022. And if our exports have suddenly surged, you know what that means.
You won't name those countries?
I think go look at the trade statistics, it's pretty obvious. They have a history with each other, and they have a history of overlooking their history. So what happens is it's not the first time we have seen things. And the interesting thing is, when you look sometimes at the certificates, say somebody in the military will give, it's the same military which went into Abbottabad and found who there. So the issue in a way is when countries are very focused on doing politics of convenience, they keep trying to do this, and some of it can be tactical, some of it can have some other benefits or calculations. But again, look at obviously I respond to the situation or the challenge of the day, but I also do so always keeping in mind the larger structural sort of strengths of the relationship, the confidence that comes from it. So I take it in that spirit.